So you're asking about foreign keys. Okay. So this is actually a pretty good designer. It gives you about 75% of what you need to set up your foreign keys. You go over here to foreign keys, you right click, you say add foreign key, you give it a name. So it says this is user session, and this is connecting to user. So I'm going from user session to user. You'll also notice that my table name was user_session. So that way you can easily identify that this is the many-to-many between user and session. So what the constraint is we need to identify a foreign key for column 1. Column 1 is the column in user session. So in this case, we're talking about the user ID field. It references to what table? To user, and the column is ID. Yep. There we go. No. Alright. So we'll add another foreign key. Called session. Same mechanics. This looks at the session ID field in our user session table, and we're looking at the session table ID column. So now we have two foreign key associations. Now, what that does is it builds referential integrity between our database tables. Basically means that I can't put a value, I can't put a number in user ID if that number is not the primary key out of the users table. I can't just arbitrarily pick 1,000 and type it into the database. It'll balk and complain and say 1,000 doesn't exist in users. Same thing with session. Actually has to be a session number or a session ID or it'll balk and complain. So you're just providing integrity to your database. Not a bad thing. Some people confuse this with indexes. And does anybody know what an index is on a database? Table or column?
Isn't it like a quick lookup for it?
Yes, that's probably a good generalization. So the idea with an index is that you're building a quick lookup on a given column. Your primary keys are your primary keys because those become your main index for your table. That's why here, this constraint becomes the primary key clustered for these two fields. Is that there's an index that's built that allows you to do a fast lookup on this table when you write a where statement with those fields. And you can build multiple indexes into your table. So if you often look up by username, you can actually build a secondary index on the username field of the users table. And the goal is that once you end up with a large amount of records in that table, that index makes the lookup faster. Because these are both primary key fields, they're indexed automatically. The catch is when you do this lookup, it only gives you the performance when you look up on both fields. Or if you look up on user ID alone, it'll work. I won't get into it. The idea is basically that your indexes only work when you're looking up in the right order. Think of it like a telephone book. If you open up a telephone book and you are looking for your buddy's address, you're going to start by looking it up by last name, then you look up by first name, then you look up by street address, right? And you do it in that order, and it's fast because you know it'll start with the last name and you find it. And then you search through those and you find the first name, and then you find the address that matches. So if they're all Stephen Jones, you go to the Jones, then you go to the Stevens, then you go to the address. That's an indexed approach. Let's say you were searching by Stephen alone. Well, the phone book it's not indexed by first name. So you're left with the choice of looking up every person named Stephen in the entire telephone book first, writing them down, and then finding the last name of Jones. That's what happens if you don't build an index on your database table. It's called a full table scan. So there's some extra knowledge for your money. So if we wanted to, just for demonstration purposes, we can add an index onto our users table for the username field. And it's basically just like we added that foreign key. Create index. The index gets a unique name, and that's unique within the entire database. It's not just this table. And this will be on username. So once our database table has millions and millions of users in it, doing that lambda expression, that first or default where we search on username, should be as fast or almost as fast as looking them up by their ID number. That's the goal here.